Well, I don't know about you, but I have this bug in me. It feels like it's spring, darn it, and I want to do things to my garden.
It's time to grow things.
I want to feel and I want to smell fragrant things. I am in my yard. We have the jasmine and the citrus.
Man. It's coming.
Are you feeling it? And the roses.
I love the smell of that stuff.
And the birds.
Yes.
You know,
and the crazy finches are going nuts.
Are happy, and the koi are swimming, and it's like, you know what? It's time.
The koi are swimming.
It's a joyful time. And
your koi, by the way, are literally. It's like you have like
horses,
pet animals. Cindy walks to the edge of her koi pond and just stands there and like calls one of their names, and they actually show up.
They're very fun. Anyway, who are you?
I'm Eric Stromer.
And I'm Cindy Dole. And you're listening to Home Wizards. And so we thought we'd talk about some things you can do right now just to make gardening easier. Some tips to just to make your time in the garden more enjoyable, because this is that time of year, to get out there and to start.
My bulbs are coming up too, man.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing everything happening. It's like a Disney movie. There's birds and landing on my shoulder, and I'm singing a song in a gown
and
with a tiara.
Snow White shows up and that kind of thing.
Kind of happens.
So here's some things. First of all, making gardening easier doesn't mean that there's always going to be something to do in the garden, but there's some tips, some common sense, and some things that will make you feel like it's not as difficult, right? And you can kind of get ahead of the game. So, for instance, feeding the soil. You hear it thousands and thousands of times, but do you really do it?
Well, you got to do it if you don't. Because I'll tell you, if you've grown a crop last year and you're ready to start something new, if you don't amend that soil, you're just going to be dealing with old used soil that's not going to have the nutrients that it should. So just get a bag of amendments, if you're doing vegetables, get new organic soil, throw a couple of bags in there, mix it around, get yourself going, and you start over, and you're in a lot better position to grow successful crops.
That's the key. That's the key, because it all starts with great soil.
Yes, it
right?
does. Yeah.
Healthy plants are going to get less disease, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like people.
That's why they tell you to rotate crops, right? But if you don't have the room, then you got to amend what you already have. And it's actually pretty easy to do. Just a couple of bags that'll fit in the back of the car. Just throw them out, put them in there, and mix them around.
And the thing, too, is if you're wondering how your soil really is doing, you can go to a lot of the different nurseries where you are. We'll provide this service to help you test the pH of your soil.
And
right?
by the way, can I tell you, that is the most underutilized tip out there. I think people get lazy and they don't do that. If you just take that one simple step, all the guesswork's gone, and you're going to have successful crops. And if you don't do it, you're just guessing at it. You know what I mean? So do this one. This is really helpful.
And take a little baggie of the soil from maybe several areas, because you probably have different kinds of soil. Maybe you have a shady area where it's more more clay-like, right? And maybe you have another part of the area where it's very dry, and it's totally a different makeup in terms of the type of soil and the nutrients that it might still need. So if you go to the nursery and you take that, plus you can also contact your local cooperative extension service.
Right. Yeah, and oftentimes too, if you've had success with things, you're going to probably have success there again if you do what we say. Just amend stuff. Do the additives. If you've got, for example, I had one garden, I remember this was in an old house that had really clay heavy soil. So you'd put water in the hole and it would just sit there like a ceramic dish, right? And I never had drainage. So, I had to kind of create more drainage, and I actually transformed that whole area by digging some of that stuff out and then putting the right components in there to make it successful.
A world of difference, right?
World of difference.
See? As opposed to them just like these poor plants sitting there in mud.
Yeah.
Feeling depressed and suffering. Basically suffocating,
Yeah, exactly.
So, and consider slow-release organic fertilizers that also can help supplement some of your deficient nutrients. By feeding plants with certain different fertilizers is really going to help and turn your garden into something that's going to just be thriving. Now, here's another tip. If you've been wanting to have a yard, you drive around and you think, boy, it's spring. I love the fact that these people over here have their tulips. Oh, my gosh, I wish I had that. And, oh, look, they're so lucky. Well, here's the trick that they're probably doing that you may not have thought of. It's all about grouping plants by their needs.
Okay,
right?
yeah, that's a good idea.
So, like, for instance, in your front yard, what do you have growing right now? You have an area that's kind of your drought-tolerant area.
I've done the drought-tolerant method.
See, so that's a nice little patch where you took away some of the lawn. It's a nice little pathway.
Yeah.
And in our front yard, the same thing. I have an area where it's our shade garden, and so we have ferns and certain flowers that love nothing but just indirect light. So if you plant plants by their needs, the right plant for the right spot, it's going to take a lot of the pain out of it, because now you're going to be more successful. You're going to have, the plants that don't need a lot of water in the same area and those that want a little bit more in the same area.
Sure.
You'll save water too.
Yeah, and then if you get confused too about your exposure, I think it's really helpful to, chances are you've got a compass device on your PDA or your iPhone or whatever you're using, and just stand at your front door and kind of put it out there in front of you, and you'll see this is the west side of my house, this is the east side, so on and so forth. And it's really helpful to have as much information as you can before you go to the nursery to seek some of this information as you can be armed with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go there, folks there are going to be able to give you the right plants for the right area. And to your point, you can't buy the wrong plants and plant them in the spot that it's supposed to have the shade stuff. When it's really the sun stuff, it's not going to make it.
Mm-hmm. And also, when you're grouping plants by their needs, consider too how efficient it would be, in terms of the plants that need a lot of deadheading, or vegetables that need to be harvested daily or hourly. So it's not just about the plant's needs with sunlight and water, but their maintenance. Like, do all the flowers. You're going to save yourself time. Let's say that your roses are all in one area, because now you can deadhead those in that area, versus like the succulents,
right,
or another area.
Exactly.
So it's like not only the light and the water and the soil, but the activity that they require on maybe a daily, maybe a weekly, whatever kind of a basis.
Sure.
And then you can still mix in different bloom times and variations in color. So this is the art and the strategy of a real landscape designer, because the whole idea is to have things always bursting in color.
That's exactly right.
Year-round.
That's the challenge. That's why you don't want to have stuff mixed to the point where, one time, just the flowers bloom and then everything else is sort of looking terrible and nothing.
Yes.
It's got to all happen.
It's showtime.
Concurrently.
It's
showtime, baby.
24/7. Right?
And then if you are not in a position where you want to start digging and moving soil around, there's always the option of, in that exact spot, just doing a raised garden bed, and that is so simple. It's just a couple of pieces of 2x6 or 2x12, with a rudimentary framework around it to get it up off the ground. And then you can just dump the brand new soil that you're starting over with. It's going to be right, and it's actually going to be helpful to keep pests at bay a little bit and critters from getting up in that garden if you don't want them there. And that may be the answer. So think about that as well. It might be easier to build the raised garden bed.
And if you lift it up by 6 inches or more too, you'll have the benefit of not only controlling your border, but you might even save your back from some bending.
Well, that's my motivation, especially after this 2-day camping trip, sleeping on a cot. I don't want to bend over at all.
Okay.
No.
And also consider choosing lower maintenance perennials. There's always going to be that prima donna plant that you love and you want to have, but if you make that the backbone of your garden, it's going to be a little more challenging. Instead, if you choose those, low maintenance perennials that just basically you don't have to do anything and they just look great all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to be a genius, and you're going to feel better about how your yard looks without very little effort.
And don't forget to check your irrigation right before you start doing all this planting. You want to make sure you're getting the appropriate amount of water the right way. Don't just want stuff blasting sidewalks and streets that aren't doing anything. You definitely want to really spend your time and energy focusing on how and where you're going to get water to that certain area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's critical. That's
like maybe even a drip system,
probably
right?
the most important thing.
Yeah.
And they do drip systems now that can be attached to garden hose bibs rather than the whole mechanics of a new system. So there are ways to do it on the cheap.
And with a timer, too.
Yeah, right.
Eric Stromer, Cindy Doe, we love hanging out with you, but make sure you go to our website, too, because we're here whenever you need us, yourhomewizards.com. Check us out, and until next time, remember this, the key is under the mat. Bye-bye.
I'll light the fire while you place the flowers in the vase that you bought.